everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Sunday meal prep video. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Christy and I'm currently following the WW Blue program, but I will always give the points for all three programs, and also in the description box below I will give the link to where the recipe can be found, and that way if you're not following WW you can usually find the nutrition facts on the website as well. So for my meal prepping, I'm meal prepping for my husband and I. Usually I just meal prep breakfast and lunch for 3 days during the week, and then the end of the week I usually do something different, and sometimes I may change it up. For my dinners, I basically just make kind of like dinner kits. It's similar to the meal delivery services that are out there. I just do my own. So if you want to see how I meal prep breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks for my husband and I, then stay with me. So we're going to get started with breakfast first, and I'm going to get the potatoes going because those are going to bake in the oven for about 45 minutes. So I have an oval casserole dish that I've sprayed with cooking spray, and I have 1 pound of baby potatoes that I've already washed, and I'm just going to cut those into quarters, kind of quarter them into small pieces. You can leave the skins on or off. Actually, I think I'll cut them a little bit smaller than quarters. It'll help them to cook faster. Alright, I have my oven preheating to 425. So now I'll finish cutting these up. This is a skinny taste recipe. I will link the recipe down in the description box below, as I do with all the other recipes that I share. For this recipe, if you are on green, this is a higher point recipe because it uses whole eggs. So you could definitely switch and use, like liquid eggs to lower the points. So for this one, it is actually 5 points for blue, 3 points for purple, and 11 points for green. Okay, after we have the potatoes cut in there, the next thing we are going to add is 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Just drizzle that right over the top. 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And just sprinkle in some black pepper. And just give that a mix. We're going to bake this in a 425-degree oven. We're going to stir it about every 15 minutes. And it should take probably about 40 minutes. On her recipe it says 45 minutes, but since I cut these so small, it may not take that long. Alright, so moving on. I meant to share the recipe that she has on her website is actually for serving of 4, and I'm making it 6 because I'm going to do 3 for me, 3 for my husband. So I've had to change the amounts on here. So her recipe calls for about 2 tablespoons of bell pepper, so I'm going to use about 3 tablespoons. And her recipe also calls for a half of a small onion. So I needed to use 3/4 of a small onion. Unfortunately, I only have 1 onion left and I need it for the lunch. So what I've done is taken the whites from green onion and just chopped those up. So I may be missing a little bit of onion, but that's fine. I'm going to set these aside and I'm going to get my eggs going. And Jackie, I wanted to show you, Jackie makes a comment about my infamous Red Bull that I always use. You guys see me use this all the time. And Jackie suggested that if I ever make a logo, I should include my Red Bull. And I think that's a good idea. So I wanted to show you, Jackie, I actually have a set of 3 different sizes. So I just love those mixing bowls. You'll always see me using those. Alright, so her recipe calls for 8 eggs. I'm actually going to use 12 eggs. And like I said, if you're on green, you may want to use like egg substitute, liquid eggs, or something to lower your points. I'm mixing the eggs up. Let me show you in the meantime. I have my turkey breast going. I am actually using, well, I guess you can't see it that way. I am using some fresh ground turkey breast. This is the 99% fat free, so if you're not using the turkey breast, make sure you account for your points. So I'm just gonna get that cooking. I guess I should have probably used a bigger pan. And the recipe calls for 1 pound, but since I am making 6, I needed 1.5 pounds. So I actually had a 1/2 pound in my freezer. So I have 1.5 pounds in here. All right, just let those cook until it gets brown. So the next thing I'm going to add is 1/4 teaspoon of adobo seasoning. Actually, it's 1/4 teaspoon of adobo seasoning for the serving of 4, but since I'm making 6, that's going to be 3/8 of a teaspoon. So I'm just going to kind of estimate that. And the last thing we want is 3/4 of a cup of reduced fat Mexican cheese. I'm actually using Mexican Velveeta shreds, and basically I just weighed out, it's 28 grams for 1/4 of a cup. So I weighed out 84 grams. Put that right in there. And then we're gonna just whisk that up. All right, and just set that aside. And then we're gonna get back to our turkey. Now, one thing with ground turkey breast is you don't usually have to rinse the grease. There's not usually any grease in there, so I don't usually drain it. Alright, once it is done cooking, now I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of taco seasoning mix. If you're just making the 4, then you would just add 2 tablespoons. And if you don't, you can make your own taco seasoning too. She has a recipe to make homemade taco seasoning on there as well. I'm going to give that another mix. And I definitely should have used a bigger pan, but we're going to make do. I'm going to use a spoon, I think, at this point. You just want to make sure that you get it coated all over. Now we're going to add the onion and pepper. We're going to add about 6 ounces of tomato sauce. This is an 8-ounce container, so I'm going to just add, it's actually 4 ounces for the serving of 4. So I'm just going to kind of estimate. And finally, I'm going to do about 3/8 of a cup of water. The recipe for serving of 4 is 1/4 cup of water. Mix that up real good. Alright. Now we're going to cover it and simmer it on low for about 20 minutes. Okay, in the meantime, I've got another pan sprayed with cooking spray, and I'm going to get the eggs started. So I'm just going to put that in there. And she says at this point you can add 1/4 teaspoon of salt, but because we already have some seasoning salt in there and quite a bit in the other, I'm not going to add salt at this point. If I need to add it onto my dish later, I will. So I'm going to get those started and flip my potatoes. Alright, at this point I'm going to shut my burner off because these are going to keep cooking, and then we're just going to set those aside. Alright, So I'm going to set those aside, get them off the heat, and while I'm waiting for everything else to finish for breakfast, I'm going to move on to lunches. Alright, so I am moving on to lunch, and I unplugged my mic, so hopefully that is not too loud. Actually, I'm just going to move you down anyways. I'm just showing you, I have sprayed a pan with cooking spray, and I have in here 18 ounces of turkey kielbasa. And let me move you back down here so you can hear me a little better. With the camera that I use, it doesn't tell me how loud the sound is. So I don't know until I actually go to edit it. This is a recipe I found from momontimeout.com. I think you can see video. momontimeout.com. I never heard of that website before. I just found this while Googling. I was actually Googling KIELBASA skillet because I knew I made one before, but I just can't find, I don't remember the one I made. So this is the one I'm doing. I'm making a few tweaks. For example, I'm not going to use the olive oil. I'm just going to cook the kielbasa with cooking spray. This recipe calls for 14 ounces. I am actually using 18 ounces. And this is the kielbasa I'm using. It comes in a 13-ounce package, so I just cut 5 ounces off of this one. I used one whole package plus 5 ounces off of this. And on the directions it says to slice it on a diagonal. I actually quartered the pieces, so they're smaller pieces. This is going to make 6 servings, and so we're just basically going to have 3 ounces in each serving. And then I need a small onion, red bell pepper, salt, pepper, garlic, 1 cup of uncooked white rice, which I'm going to use the jasmine rice actually. And then 2 cups of chicken stock or broth, 2 cups of broccoli, and 2 cups of shredded cheese. And I haven't decided if I'm going to use the cheese or not. So I am doing it based on the points that I figured are 5 points per serving. That is without the cheese. So if I decide to do cheese, I may just put like 1/8 of a cup of it on it afterwards. So 5 points without the cheese. So like I said, I have the kielbasa going over here on my burner. The next thing I did is slice up my bell peppers and onions. I basically did about a half a green bell pepper and half of a red bell pepper. I think the red was a little bit over half. That's fine because vegetables are 0 points. And then my onion. So I'm just going to wait for the kielbasa to cook up, and then I will saute this. Alright, after we got a nice sear on the kielbasa, just set that aside in another bowl. I'm going to set that aside. And now we're going to add the onion and pepper to that same pan. And we're going to just let that saute up until it's translucent. And in the meantime, my potatoes were done, and I actually took them out after 30 minutes because I had them cut quite small. And the next thing I'm doing back there is boiling up 2 cups of water for the chicken stock. I'm actually going to use the Better Than Bouillon chicken base. For 1 cup, it's 1 cup of boiling water for 1 teaspoon of the chicken base, but I'm going to be using 2 teaspoons. The next thing I want is, it calls for 2 cloves of garlic. But anybody who knows me knows I always add extra garlic. And the garlic cloves I have are really small. So I'm actually going to add 4. Going to give that a quick mince. Back over here, and as you can see, my vegetables are pretty done. So now I'm going to add the garlic. I'm just going to cook this for about 1 minute, just until you really start smelling that garlic. Make sure you're scraping the bottom from the kielbasa, get all that flavor in there. I'm just going to turn that down for a minute. Now I'm just going to add some salt and pepper. I'm going to stir in my 1 cup of rice. And I'm going to add my chicken base to the water. And I'm just gonna stir that and cook it, let it cook for 1 to 2 more minutes. And let me show you the rice I'm using is actually instant jasmine rice. This rice is 2 points instead of 3 for 1/2 cup, so that's why I choose to use that. But it just calls for white rice, so just use whatever kind of white rice you want. All right, after that has been cooking for a minute or 2, now we're gonna add the chicken broth. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to transfer this to a bigger pan. The reason being is I want to add extra broccoli, and this pan is just not going to be big enough for that. So I'm just going to transfer it to a new pan. So had I made this before, I would have done that, but now I'll know for next time. So definitely use a bigger pan. Alright, now we're just going to let that come to a boil. Alright, after that's come to a boil, now I've lowered my heat down to low. I'm going to cover it, let it come to a simmer, and cook it for about 15 minutes. Alright, while that's simmering, now I'm going to cut up some broccoli. And the recipe calls for 2 cups of broccoli cut into bite-sized pieces, but I'm probably going to use a little bit more just because I absolutely love broccoli. And it's 0 points, and it'll bulk it up. So we'll see how much I end up using. Alright, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I have like a really full 2 cups there, and then I have this much. So I have probably about 4 cups worth that I'm actually going to be using a lot of broccoli. So I'm going to let that finish cooking, finish simmering for the 15 minutes, and then we'll put everything together. Alright, so it has not been quite 15 minutes yet, but I am stopping it now because I realized the 15 minutes is probably if you're using like regular white rice, and since I'm using the instant rice, it's not going to take that long. So now, without disturbing the rice, just add the broccoli on top, and we're basically just going to steam this right in the pan. Alright, I'm going to let that sit for about 10 minutes. So while the broccoli is finished cooking, the last thing I have to do with the lunch is just add the kielbasa back in. So I'm going to let the broccoli cook and go ahead and portion out the breakfast. So for this one, I weighed out the potatoes. So in each dish, I'm going to weigh out about 37 grams of potatoes. If you don't have a scale, you could just split it into 6. So it's not going to be very many potatoes in each dish. So just a small amount of potatoes. And then in each dish is going to be about 3/4 of a cup of turkey. Now you could weigh this out if you want, but I'm just going to measure it. And 2/3 of a cup of eggs. And then if you want, you can top the potatoes with a tablespoon of cheese and some green onion or cilantro or whatever. And then if you want, you can also serve it with salsa on the side. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that. So that is our breakfast, and I'll show it to you at the end when I put everything out and show you the points. So I'm just going to go through and portion out the rest of these. Okay, so the breakfasts are done, and I still haven't decided about the salsa yet. I think I'm just going to leave them the way they are, and if I decide to do salsa, then I'll just bring it with me throughout the week. I don't know yet if I'm going to be working from home this week or in the office, so I'm going to set those aside and move back on to lunch. So the broccoli is pretty much done. Now I'm just gonna add the kielbasa back in. And now I'm gonna just stir all that around. And that is all there is to the lunch. And then I'll just divide this amongst 6 bowls. Alright, so now I am going to weigh out the entire thing. So I have my bowl on there, and I've hit the tare button to bring it to 0. And now I'm going to weigh the entire thing so I know how much to put in each one. So sometimes I weigh it, sometimes I don't. It depends on how much pointed stuff is in there. Because this has kielbasa and rice, it doesn't contain a lot of 0 point. These are the ones that I always measure out. But like the breakfast you saw, I didn't really measure out the eggs or the turkey breast mixture because that was 0 points. So that is $12.92. So $12.92 divided by 6 is 215.3333. So I'm going to add 215 grams into each dish. So we'll put this dish on here. Tare it. So there we go. So that's how much. I don't know for sure if I'm going to be adding anything to this. Sometimes I'll add extra vegetables or something, but for now I'm just going to leave it that way. So I'm just going to portion the rest of these out. Okay, so there are all our lunches. And like I said, I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to add anything to them. I may add some cucumbers on the side. I think I have some mini cucumbers that I need to use up, so I may do that. So now I have, I think, 1 or 2 meal kits to put together for dinners. Okay, so moving on to dinner. If you're new to my channel, basically for dinners, I'm just portioning everything out into basically meal kits. And it's just getting it all ready. I'm not cooking anything, washing anything, or cutting up a bunch of fruits and vegetables or anything like that. I'm just putting everything in the bag. That way I already have it weighed out, measured out, and I know exactly how much I'm using. So for one night, I'm actually doing Italian chicken roll-ups. I am actually making this and kind of doing a lunch prep at the same time. So I'm going to be making a portion of 8 the night that I make this. And 6 of them I'm going to throw in my freezer for meal prep lunch next week. So for this one, I'm actually going to be having, it's Italian chicken roll-ups with ranch cauliflower. For the entire kit, everything that's in the bag, it's going to be 6 points on blue, 6 points on purple, and 8 points on green. So all I'm doing right now is just cutting up some cauliflower, and I'm going to put that in there. So basically I'll wash this and roast it up the night that we have it. So just kind of go through, cut it into bite-sized pieces. And then just toss it in the bag. And the bags that I have are reusable bags that I got from Amazon. So I just write on them with a permanent marker, and it washes off pretty good with soap and water. I do have to kind of scrub it, but you could also use like rubbing alcohol and it would come off easier. And I'm actually not sure if I'm going to fit everything in this bag because I have quite a bit of chicken. So I may just leave the chicken separate. The ranch topping is basically a mixture of 2 ounces of light sour cream and 1 teaspoon of ranch seasoning mix, the powder. So I just mix that and put that up. We just basically roast the cauliflower and drizzle that ranch topping over it after. The next thing I'm going to be putting in there is the stuff for the chicken. So basically I have gone through and just portioned everything out. I have 8 slices of the ultra thin provolone, 8 slices of thin deli ham. The recipe that I got this from is actually from Taste of Home. And I did tweak a little bit because they only use 4 slices of provolone for the 8 portions. I used 8 because I'm using the ultra thin. And let me see. I think there was, oh, the other thing is a 1/2 cup of milk. I'm not going to use milk. The milk is basically just to dip the chicken in. I'm actually just going to brush the chicken with some mustard. That's usually what I use. So I'm going to put the cheese and the ham in there. And then I have a mixture here of half a cup of Parmesan, 1/3 of a cup of panko breadcrumbs, 1/3 of a cup of regular breadcrumbs, and about 1/4 of a cup of fresh cut up parsley. And then my chicken, and like I said, I don't think that's gonna fit. And you know what, this is still kind of frozen, so I think the chicken I will leave out because there's no way I'm gonna fit 8 chicken breasts in there. So I have 8 chicken breasts. They're probably about 4 ounces each. So I will just put those in the fridge, just right next to them. So that's it. That's all I do with the kits. The other kit that I'm going to do, and you know what I'm going to also do, I had cut up a bunch of green onion for dinner tonight, actually, that we made. So I have a bunch of green onion cut up, so I'm going to put some of that in there, and I'll use that for the topping on the ranch cauliflower as well. And then I just have one more dinner kit to do tonight. For the other nights, Monday night, tomorrow night, I usually do salmon, but tomorrow is Memorial Day. My dog's in the background drinking water. Tomorrow's Memorial Day, so we're not doing salmon. We're actually going to be cooking out burgers tomorrow. So I don't have anything to prep there. And then the end of the week, Thursday and Friday, I'm actually going to be doing some Instant Pot recipes. And I'm not going to get those ready because I don't want to pre-package those too early in the week. So the only other one I'm doing today is garlic herb pork tenderloin with potatoes, carrots, and gravy. This one is very easy to put together. I have about 12 ounces of potatoes. This is 9 points on blue, 6 points on purple, and 12 points on green, but you could definitely lower it by cutting down on the potatoes. So we have 12 ounces of potatoes, and this is going to make 2. So everything in here is enough for my husband and I. It's just 2 servings. So 12 ounces we're going to split. So you definitely could cut down on the potatoes. I also have about 12 ounces of carrots. And then I have a half a cup of Heinz pork gravy. I'm just using the Heinz brand. Sometimes I use the kind in the little packets, but this time I'm using the Heinz pork gravy, and I think that gravy is like 1.4, either an 1/8 or a 1/4 of a cup. And then this is the topping for the pork tenderloin. I have here 10 ounces of pork tenderloin that I've already pre-packaged from before, so I'll put that in there. And then the topping for the pork tenderloin is just 1 garlic clove that I minced up, and actually I grated it on a cheese grater. So 1 garlic clove, 1 tablespoon of stone ground mustard, a half a tablespoon of olive oil, and I weighed out 1/4 of an ounce of chives. And that's it for that one. That one's super easy. I actually had already weighed everything because I just throw the dinner kits in the meal prep just to show you how I do my dinners, but I don't think you need to sit there and watch me every single week weighing and measuring things out, because that's not really the point, but I do want to show for anybody new how I do the dinner kits. And the dinner kits are also not meant to really show you the recipe, but more rather to show you how you can do your dinner kits. But with that being said, I will include the recipes for the dinner kits as well as the breakfast and lunch down in the description box below. I don't have anything to prep for snacks this week. I think that we're going to be doing watermelon tomorrow for Memorial Day, so I'm probably just going to cut that up tomorrow, and then I'll have that throughout the week for my fruit. And then other than that, we're just going to be doing our normal pudding and then popcorn at night. So nothing to prep there. So let me clean up a little. I'll put everything out on the table and show you the points and what we ended up with. All right, here we go. Here's meal prep for the week. I don't have my snacks out. Usually I have my snack bin at the end of the table, but it's just pudding this week. And I don't have, like I said, I'm doing fruit. That's actually going to be watermelon tomorrow. So I'm just going to share with you the lunches and breakfast. So this is the breakfast, and it looks so good. My husband came in, he was all excited. He's like, that's breakfast and that's lunch. So this is the breakfast taco scramble from skinnytaste.com. And this is 5 points on blue, 3 points on purple, and 11 points on green. Like I said, if you want to lower it on green, you could definitely use liquid eggs, and that would lower your points on that. And also, you could add some salsa. I don't think I'm going to add salsa. I think I'm going to leave it the way it is. So that is going to be breakfast. And then this is the lunches. This is the cheesy kielbasa rice and broccoli, which turned out to just be kielbasa rice and broccoli. I don't think I'm going to add cheese. It looks so good just the way it is. So why bother taking another point if I don't need it? So this won't be called cheesy. It'll just be kielbasa rice and broccoli skillet. And this is going to be 5 points on all programs. And then for my dinner kits, I have the garlic herb pork tenderloin with potatoes, carrots, and gravy, 9 blue, 6 purple, and 12 on green. And the Italian chicken roll-ups with ranch cauliflower. Stay tuned for that. That will probably be lunch prep next week. And that is 6 blue, 6 purple, and 8 on green. And then I have my chicken over there on the side. All right, everyone, I'm going to sign off because my husband and I are going to eat dinner and we are going to try out the slip and slide that we got for our grandson. So if you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Put any comments down below. Let me know how you're doing with your meal prepping. And thank you all so much. If you're new, I hope you'll subscribe. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified anytime I upload new content. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. I'm Christy and I'm planning us healthy. If you're new to my channel, like I said, I just basically do dinner kit. Yeah, let me try that again.
Wow. Man, that was pretty much perfect. I could tell by the color of the juice that it was still pink, but not overly pink. She'll rent me out by the hour, you know. I go over and start your barbecue.
I give them for free.
Oh, look at that. That's a picture right there, babe.
I think I just put my boob in your food.